I've been working on my latest video on the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and there was a moment I pointed out how long it had been since Cream the Rabbit had been in a Sonic game. And though she's made cameos in Speed Simulator and mentioned in Frontiers, the last time we physically saw Cream in a game was in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, so I wanted to grab some footage of that. I figured that her appearance was similar to her other ones in the series, where she hosts party modes with Toad, but when I clicked on the main menu option that features their renders, I was met with other features like the trivia I'd collected, game options, records, but nothing aside from this one render of Cream, and I thought, there's no way this is the only place where Cream is featured, right? And no, she's there as a referee of sorts in some events, but it was just weird to me that she would have a full-on render if she was no more than a background character like Charmy was. Like, they were putting her in the same limelight as Toad, and he actually has somewhat of a role in the story mode. And as I tried to find footage of her appearance in the game beyond this background appearance, I discovered something that I found really interesting. Usually when I'm at a loss for information, I do my research and look up where a certain character or moment can be found for me to go there, find it, and record it if I need to. Otherwise, it's just for the sake of verifying it myself. And one of the most comprehensive sources I'm able to use is the Sonic the Hedgehog fan wiki. Like, genuinely, in a weird way, this site feels like a second home to me because of how much time I spend looking things up there to cross-reference information or sources. So, when I looked up Cream's role in Tokyo 2020, the only thing I could find was that she acted as a referee or a judge. And if that's all it was, I didn't want to go through the trouble of booting up the game just to capture that myself. I figured I'd just use someone else's footage. And as it turns out, when you look up Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020 Cream the Rabbit, you don't get many results, which is understandable, but at the top of the list are two videos from a user named reteulo-v, and the first result I'd found myself was one they called the Cream cutscene. And I thought that was pretty weird because at that point, I'd played the story mode of this game twice. Once when it came out and I captured footage for myself to use in a future video, and the second time was during my marathon where I played every single Sonic game. And in both playthroughs, I didn't see Cream the Rabbit once. And I especially knew that when I first played this game because I went out of my way to talk to as many NPCs as I could. So I checked out reteulo's video and saw that it was a conversation you can have with Cream, Luigi, and Amy in Tokyo Station. Now, I already thought this was weird because it's been a couple months since I played this game, and as far as I remembered, Tails and Luigi were the protagonists, not Amy and Luigi. But whatever, this was something I could capture on my end too, no problem, so I booted up the game and re-entered the story mode, where I was surprised to find out there was a bit of extra dialogue that happens when you continue your story mode save file. Nothing too major, but I wouldn't have thought this game had any sort of post-game material. In any case, I made my way over to Tokyo Station and realized that no one was there. Or at least Cream and Cheese weren't. All the other regular NPCs that appear here were still where they should be. So I wondered if there was anything specific I had to do, and that's when I discovered reteulo's second video, which they call Cream and Cheese's Tokyo Tour, which I think is a fantastic name for this little side story. As it so happens, you can run into Cream at multiple points during the story mode and talk to her about the place you're currently at. It turns out that the reason that Cream and Cheese were missing in my save file was because I didn't do their side quest. It's something that you can totally miss if you don't talk to them when you're supposed to. Meaning I had to play the game all over again if I wanted to experience this. And what struck me as strange was that this was the only evidence I had that this existed in the game at all. No one else on the internet, as far as I could tell, either knows about this or is talking about it. So I wanted to share this with you all because it's a cool little part of a cool little story mode that's incredibly easy to miss, and I think more people should be made aware of it. Restarting the story mode, you're first able to encounter Cream and Cheese at Tokyo Station during Chapter 3, which is when you're first able to control Luigi. What I'd forgotten about is that you don't start the game with Tails right off the bat, you start with Amy, which explained the first of reteulo's videos I saw. And the reason it's so easy to miss is because as the story progresses and you're given access to the map of Tokyo, the game straight up shows you where the next plot important location is. While it does give you access to a lot of other locations from the beginning too, it's not like there's really anything to do in those spots, so you end up gravitating to the next place you're supposed to go. And the thing is, there's only one time Cream is ever in a story-relevant location, but unless you go find her in every chapter leading up to that point, she won't be there. I genuinely have no idea how they expected anyone to stumble onto this, and I think that without data mining, it's pretty lucky we know about this at all. At this point in the story, Amy's helping Luigi to find Tails to see what can be done about the Tokyo 64 console that Mario, Sonic, Toad, Bowser, and Eggman happen to find themselves trapped in. Like I said, among the few locations that we have access to at the start of the game is Tokyo Station, the main hub in the country's capital that connects to so many other cities in Japan by way of Japan Railway trains, Shinkansen, also known as bullet trains, or arrivals to Narita Airport. Underneath the station are underground shops, and it's basically like a town all its own down there, with food to eat, galleries to visit, and things to buy. The entrance to Tokyo Station is where we run into Cream and Cheese for the first time. It turns out that she didn't arrive with the rest of the group, and that in addition to being here to watch the Olympics, she came to go sightseeing in Tokyo. And just like her render, we can see that she's wearing a yukata, which is a Japanese robe typically worn during summer events in Japan, in this case the way the Olympics were supposed to have been. It's like a lightweight version of a kimono and would typically be worn when hopping between hot springs, which I thought was kind of cute because she's wearing it while hopping between different locations within Tokyo. Cheese, on the other hand, is wearing a hapi, a coat usually worn during festivals, and I guess the Olympic Games would count. Amy asks Cream what her plans are in Tokyo, and Cream isn't exactly sure what it is she wants to go see. Amy then suggests that she should go see it all, which Cream seems to be interested in, saying that she'll have to think about it. From here on, we can only find Cream every other chapter, during the Tokyo 2020 segments. In the story mode, every chapter alternates between Tokyo 2020 with Luigi and Tails, and Tokyo 64 with Mario and Sonic. Cream's side story made me wonder if there was anything else like that, maybe on Mario and Sonic's side, but as far as I could tell, Cream's is the only side event in the game. Don't quote me on that though, because there could totally be something I missed. During Chapter 5, Cream can be found at Shibuya Crossing, the New York's Times Square of Japan. With so many things to see around this intersection, from business centers to shopping, dining, and other entertainment options, it's said that at its busiest times, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 people are crossing in Shibuya every 2 minutes. That led to its nickname Scramble, since some people walk across frantically while others maintain calm synchronization. A controlled chaos, if you will. At this point, we've already met up with Tails and Daisy, who join our party, and they have a chance to talk to Cream as well. Daisy mentions how many stores there are in Shibuya, which Cream states is the reason she's here in the first place, but that she's kinda lost, wondering which way to go. Amy suggests that any way is good, since there are shops all over the place, while Tails tells her that she might end up lost that way. Luigi then says that it would be a good idea to ask people for directions, especially given the kind nature of the Japanese people. It turns out that Cream did in fact get some help getting to Shibuya in the first place, since she didn't know how to get here from Tokyo Station. Tails gets a little worried, but Cream assures him that she'll just look around and start small. Moving on to Chapter 7, Cream can be found in the Kabukiza Theater, and I think it's kind of funny that Daisy and Tails tell Cream that it's a coincidence that we ran into her here and that we were just passing by, because that's really the only way you'd find where Cream is. As far as I could tell, up until this point, there's nothing that clues you in as to where Cream will go next, meaning that instead of advancing the story, you just sorta have to guess. The only reason I knew where to go was because reteulo timestamped Cream's location in each chapter. She's here to watch a kabuki performance, and if you've ever seen any sort of traditional Japanese imagery, you've likely seen drawings or photos of kabuki performers. It's a classical form of Japanese theater usually involving acting, singing, and dancing. In fact, the individual kanji that make up the word kabuki can be translated as sing, dance, and skill, roughly meaning the skill of singing and dancing, but is thought to stem from the verb kabuku, meaning to be out of the ordinary. Especially with how performers dress up, it's understood to be a very bizarre form of theater, and it's a tradition that has spanned over the course of hundreds of years, all the way back to the 17th century, and is still in style today. Now, I'm not going to get any deeper into the history and specifics of kabuki because there's way too much to talk about and we'd be here all day, but that's another aspect of this side story that I think is really cool, if a little underutilized. Cream visits all these major cultural landmarks in Tokyo, and in a game that's set in a real-life location, the story is mostly focused on the fantastical elements that make up the video game worlds, with Olympic events mixed in, which is totally fine, that's kind of the point of these games, but sometimes I do wish the locations were a bit more celebrated, especially because we, as the audience, and especially the kids playing, could learn a bit more about the real world in a way they probably wouldn't otherwise. While Cream doesn't really go into detail, she does explain that kabuki is a way for her to experience the traditional Japanese arts. Though Daisy expresses interest in watching some kabuki herself, Silver reminds her that we have more pressing matters at the moment, and Rouge asserts her that the theater isn't going anywhere. It's at this point that Cream asks where we've been to, and Amy tells her about our outing to Tokyo Tower, which Cream says she'll be going to next. Now, the first few times I made the mistake of not talking to Cream again after the initial cutscene to see if she had anything else to say, so maybe she does tell you where she plans to go next, but this is the first time we're told, within the cutscene itself, where to find Cream in the next chapter, and talking to her again here reminds the player of where she plans to go. In Chapter 9, Cream can indeed be found at Tokyo Tower, an Eiffel-inspired telecommunications and observation tower which broadcasts TV and radio signals. At 332.9 meters, or almost 1,100 feet, it's the second tallest structure in Japan, and at its feet is a building known as Foot Town, where once again you can peruse the shops, eateries, and the many museums it houses, making it the most attractive place to visit at Tokyo Tower. As mentioned in the game, it has two different deck heights, the main deck and the top deck, also called the Special Observatory. There, you can get a great view of the Tokyo cityscape. Speaking to Cream here, we find out that she's already gotten a great view from up there. Vector and Toadette point out that there are other points of interest in Japan to visit too that also offer great views of the cityscape, which kind of upsets Cream a bit since she had no idea those other places existed. Daisy suggests visiting those places too, and Cream is more than excited to do so. Silver mentions wanting to visit the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, one of the two places Toadette had mentioned. Amy said she'd like to go too, and Tail suggests that they all go visit. Vector's a bit more interested in the food, which would have been a great opportunity for Cream to talk about Foot Town. Once again, talking to her after a cutscene reinforces where she'll be next, and I hope that at this point it's clear that the conversations with Cream aren't really too involved, but it's still a cool little thing to experience, seeing how she reacts to these famous Japanese landmarks, especially because we get even more interactions between the Mario and Sonic casts. In Chapter 11, we meet with Cream at the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, which is a bit of a mouthful in English, but is known as the Tokyo Tocho-san in Japanese, and even they think that's too long because they call it Tocho for short. Tocho is the building that seats the government officials that war Tokyo and is made up of 3 structures, each one taking up an entire city block. The tallest one spans 48 stories high, splitting into 2 different towers at floor 33. The tallest city hall in the world, it also used to be the tallest building in Japan until the Midtown Tower was built in 2007. Valued at $1 billion, it hosts 2 panoramic observation decks, both on each tower's 45th floor, and are completely open to the public, free of charge. And man, the more I'm learning about all this, the more I realize I would have loved to see that in-game, but Cream and Cheese are waiting for us at the entrance next to the food trucks. Yoshi asks if Cream went up to the observation decks, with Cream telling the crew that the view was gorgeous. Wario, being Wario, says that he would have taken Cream up to see the view in a chopper if she had asked, and claims the view from up there would have been even better. Of course, unlike Tocho, he would have made her pay a fee for it. While Luigi joins in on the teasing, adding that it would have been, and I quote, an unreasonable amount of money, and this is where I wish Cream had brought up that Tocho doesn't charge you anything for visiting his observation decks. A lot of little missed opportunities like that. Toadette tells Cream to ignore them and to tell them more about her experience instead. Cream tells them about the event space the building has, which hosts lots of things for tourists to enjoy, such as gift shops, cafes, and every so often they offer fairs where local products are put on sale. Daisy's a little jealous that Cream's getting to see so much, and Amy asks Cream where she's headed to next. Cream mentions the Tokyo Skytree, the other location Toadette mentioned in Chapter 9, while Luigi insists on the helicopter, much to Tails' annoyance. SBR reinforces the next location, and after the cutscene, Cream calls the Skytree the tallest place around, and she's not wrong. In Chapter 13, we visit the Tokyo Skytree, and this is the location where you would have run into Cream anyway without having to deviate from the path the game wants you to follow. If you've been talking to Cream every other chapter, that is. When scrubbing through my original footage, I noticed that I was going around talking to all the NPCs during this chapter, and Cream was nowhere to be found. I'm guessing that if you fail to talk to her even once, she won't show up at the next location, and so you won't really ever see her again. Daisy asks Cream what she's doing, just standing there, and she replies that she just got done walking around the Tembo Galleria in the Tokyo Skytree. Much like the Tokyo Tower before it, the Tokyo Skytree is a broadcasting and observation tower. Remember when I said that the Tokyo Tower was the second tallest tower in Japan and Cream said this was the tallest place around? The Tokyo Skytree is the tallest tower not just in Japan, but in the world, standing at 2,080 feet or 634 meters tall, and there's significance behind those numbers. Its height was chosen specifically because of how the numbers 6, 3, and 4 translate into Japanese: mu, sa, and shi. Musashi was the old name of the province where the Tokyo Skytree stands today. Much like Tokyo Tower before it, the Skytree houses 2 different observational decks, one at 350 meters or 1,150 feet with a capacity of 2,000 people, and another at 550 meters or 1,480 feet with a capacity of 900. At night, the Tokyo Skytree illuminates in one of 2 different patterns, alternating each night: Iki and Miyabi. From what I understand, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong about this, the names Iki and Miyabi represent Japanese aesthetic concepts meant to evoke a certain style or feeling. This may not be an apt comparison, and I apologize if it's not, I'm just trying to relate to the best of my ability, but it's kind of like how we perceive the color purple to be majestic or a sort of royal color in Western culture. On one night, the tree illuminates to represent Iki, in other words, chic, stylish, or carefree. On other nights, it's meant to represent Miyabi, elegance, refinement. They express the concept that today is connected to tomorrow and that the future expands beyond that. Cream describes walking around the tower being like walking in the sky. She still kind of felt like she was floating. Apparently, it's so tall that Luigi's neck was hurting from trying to look at the top of it. Amy offers a cool bit of information, saying that from the Tembo deck, you can see tall buildings under your feet, like gazing down from the heavens. Cream says that the buildings looked so tiny and that she was able to see the ocean and Mount Fuji in the distance. This was one of the conversations where I most felt like I could imagine what it must be like because they described not only how it felt, but what you'd be able to see. I kind of wish the other locations had been described the way the Skytree was. Yoshi expresses wanting to see it as well, and Espio chimes in saying that what he's interested in is some traditional Japanese architecture. Cream responds by saying that she's planning to go see the Sensoji Temple next, a historic temple she's wanted to see ever since she saw it on a postcard. Silver seems pretty interested at the prospect of learning about a temple with a long history. Before we move on, Cream gives us a little bit of info on our next destination, mentioning Sensoji's adjacent 5-story pagoda. In Chapter 15, Cream can be found in Kaminarimon, and this one is particularly interesting because Kaminarimon itself isn't a place, but the name of the outer gate that leads to an inner gate known as Hozomon, and ultimately leads into Sensoji, a Buddhist temple located in Asakusa. And let me tell you, if Espio and Silver wanted a history temple, they sure as hell got one. Kinryuzan Sensoji is Tokyo's oldest temple, originally built in the year 645 in commemoration of an ancient Buddhist figure of compassion. It is the most widely visited religious site in the world, with over 30 million people visiting the temple annually. During the March 10th Tokyo air raid during World War II, the temple was bombed and absolutely decimated, but it was later rebuilt and stands today as a symbol of rebirth. It's said that a tree in the same courtyard where the temple stands was also hit by the explosion, and that within its husk, the tree regrew, nature's own symbolism of rebirth for the temple. When we arrive at the Thundergate Kaminarimon, Cream greets the party asking us for a moment of our time. Amy points out that she seems so serious, but Cream just laments that she wasn't able to climb the temple's pagoda. Wario's surprised by this, asking if they wouldn't let her even if she paid, and there's this weirdly sweet moment with Wario offering to negotiate with the people in charge to let her do it, while Luigi's a lot less sweet, suggesting that maybe she just break in and desecrate a historic site. Espio rightfully calls them out on it. Tails looks on the bright side and says that seeing the big lantern on the Neo statues is enough for them. Daisy asks if that wasn't enough for Cream, but Cream assures her that it was, especially because she did some shopping and visited the main halls, and that all sounds exactly like what you would do if you were to visit Sensoji. Peach even name drops Asakusa, the district in Tokyo where you would find this temple, suggesting they wrap things up by getting something to eat. Cream asks what the specialties are around here, and Vector assures her that with all the vendors around, everything's bound to be delicious. While I can totally understand why they wouldn't go into detail about traditional Japanese dishes that they would have had to explain to a foreign audience, I kinda wish something had been name dropped, you know? Oh well. After the cutscene, Cream expresses her fear of getting lost due to the number of shops and the amount of people here. But, like Peach said, that basically wrapped up Cream and Cheese's Tokyo tour, but we're not exactly done with this side story. In Chapter 17, we have to return to Tokyo Station, but we're back to the game not exactly telling you that. I guess that they assumed you would get the hint from Peach saying that we were wrapping things up. Knuckles greets Cream, much like Amy did at the beginning of the game, and asks her if she's doing any sightseeing, with Cream telling him that she actually just finished doing that, having explored basically all Tokyo had to offer. Shadow wonders what the point of sightseeing is, but I don't know, man. Maria never even got to see what Earth was like. I bet she would appreciate you doing some sightseeing. Amy wishes she could do some herself, but says they've still got some stuff to do. Cream excitedly asks if she can help with anything, and you would think that maybe she'd want to join as a playable character or something at this point. Instead, Wario asks if she'd missed all the awesome stuff we'd been doing, with Diddy Kong making fun of how Wario must not have been as awesome as he thought. Banter ensues with Vector, and Waluigi says that maybe it would be best if everyone kept working hard while he took it easy for a little bit. Daisy, Cream, and Cheese, no, not those. Princess Daisy, Cream the Rabbit, and Cheese the Chao chastise Waluigi for wanting to bail. Tails begins to say their goodbyes, saying that they need to get going and for Cream to take care getting home. The last thing Cream says before we make our way to finish the story mode is an encouraging, keep up the good work, everybody. Now, this is one of those games that I just sort of turn off after the credits roll, but like I said earlier, you can continue after the story is over and challenge the different characters in story mode, all for the sake of getting a better record, play some dream events, pick up some remaining bits of trivia, or play some events from Tokyo 64. Nothing too crazy, and as far as I know, there isn't really anything story related at this point. But there is one last thing we can do. Returning one final time to Tokyo Station, we can talk to Cream and get our actual final cutscene of the game, with Tails asking what Cream's still doing here. Cream admits that she got lost on her way home. Seth Rogen asks Cream to not leave just yet and to maybe stick around for a little bit longer. Diddy suggests that they go sightseeing all over Japan, not just Tokyo, and she seems excited at the thought. Toadette says that she's totally on board, but asks if everyone else wasn't tired from the adventure they just went on. Cream recalls that in her own side quest, she had heard that Mario and Sonic had been through a lot recently, and for the first time in this whole game, Mario and Sonic finally get to interact with Cream. Blaze, Cream's supposed good friend, never even talks to her, and she's right next to Toadette in this scene. They assure her that what they went through was no big deal, which Cream notes sounds exactly like something Mario and Sonic would say. Toad, on the other hand, says that the whole thing was a bit much for him, making the two laugh. Tails admits that he and Luigi had a lot to do too, and that he's pretty tired from it all. That's when Daisy has an idea. What if they took a bullet train and did some sightseeing, all of them together? Peach loves the idea, and Amy pushes everyone, particularly Sonic, to get going, much to his dismay since he thought he'd finally be able to chill for a bit. The two end up bickering until Cream says that she's going to go buy the group some bento boxes so they can all have some lunch, which Mario and Sonic quickly accept. The last thing we hear Cream say when you talk to her after this cutscene ends is, "Let's enjoy Tokyo together," and I have to say, I'm kind of annoyed Because though short and not really going in depth with the places and things they were talking about, this was a really sweet side story. Not great, nothing life-changing by any means, but I'm frustrated by how easy to miss this is. I love the idea of a character like Cream, who isn't normally playable, at least not anymore, going on an adventure like this. Because like I said, the main story of this game doesn't exactly focus on this being Tokyo or even any part of Japan. Yeah, the locations are there and the names are shown, but it's incredibly interchangeable. You could have told me this was anywhere else in the world and it wouldn't exactly have mattered, because the location is the least important thing to this story. But Cream and Cheese's Tokyo Tour really highlights something the series could have maybe done a better job at, which was to properly showcase the hosts of each year's respective Olympic Games. Cream and Cheese's Tokyo Tour isn't even really the name of this side story. As far as I know, it doesn't have a name. That's just what reteulo called it in their compilation of the cutscenes, and I love it because it presents the story as its own thing, separate from the main scenario. And yet, I like how you can only experience it while doing everything else, because it signifies moments of levity within the narrative. Really, there are only 3 things about it I would change. 1, like I said, I would make the side story more immediately obvious and maybe even incentivize people to play it. Something I haven't mentioned is that you don't get anything for completing any part of the side quest. There are in-game achievements you can get in this game, but as far as I can tell, you don't earn anything for participating in this, and that's perfectly fine. Me suggesting that maybe you could get something for it is for the sake of having people be more aware of its existence, but I do also like that it exists on its own as a fun side thing. I was surprised to watch the completionist video on this game and realize that he didn't really go in depth with what exactly the game required him to do to complete it, but figured that maybe there was a chance he would bring up the Cream side quest as a way to truly complete the game. And if he did, I'd know that maybe this wasn't really as obscure as I thought it was. When not even he brought this side story up, I pretty much figured very few people knew about it. 2, I like that this gave the characters an opportunity to interact with each other in a way that they wouldn't have a chance to otherwise, but it kinda sucks that the interactions are so limited. I loved seeing Espio and Silver's interest in a historic traditional Japanese temple, and what I thought was so great about it is that they were interested in completely separate things. Espio was interested in the fact that it was Japanese and that it was a work of art. He cared about it more in a cultural way. Silver was interested in a building with a long history behind it. He didn't care so much about the building itself or where it was located, he was interested in the stories it had to tell and what it represented. I wish we could have gotten to see the kind of food Vector would have enjoyed to eat, or the valuable artifacts that Wario and Waluigi would have been willing to steal, things like that. We can immerse the characters in the culture and get even more interactions out of them for it. Which leads me to 3, I would have loved it if they had gone into further detail about the locations they visited. Most of the information I talked about regarding the places in Tokyo where we found Cream were things I had to do research on myself, and originally I was just going to talk about Cream's story because I thought it was an interesting feature the game had that not many people knew about. But I think part of it was the fact that she was wearing a yukata and Cheese was wearing a happy that made me curious as to why. Why were they wearing that? What significance do these articles of clothing have? And that led me to learn so much more about Tokyo, things I thought were super cool. I know it's hard to present stuff like this to a younger audience and expect them to care, but even if it's little bits and pieces of information, especially when supplemented with visuals, I think they really could have put the Tokyo and Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. If you want to learn more about any of the places featured in this side story, I urge you to look into them yourself because there are so many cool things to learn about our world out there. I don't know if we'll ever get another Mario and Sonic game, what with Sega losing the rights to make official video games for the Olympics after this game came out, and losing the rights to make games based off the Winter Olympics before that. Well, I don't mind the ending of this game being a final 100-meter dash with all the characters interacting in pairs amongst each other. I much prefer Cream's ending. At the end of the day, yeah, the Olympic events are okay to play. At this point, they're nothing super special, but what made this series stand out was the crossing over of 2 different beloved franchises. So for Cream to unite them all in sightseeing the host of the games and finishing it with a "Let's enjoy Tokyo together" speaks not only to the spirit of the Olympic Games themselves as a global event where people all around the world can indulge in the culture of the host country, but to the spirit of the Mario and Sonic series as a global gaming miracle celebrating these characters and their history. Hey everyone, Chao here, and I got weirdly emotional there at the end. I don't think I realized how invested I'd become in what little Japanese culture I learned from this side story, and I think that that's why I started thinking about how much I love this series and how I often wish it had more to offer when it was still around. Hopefully moving forward if we're so lucky. As always, I'd like to thank my supporters on Patreon and my channel members, and you can join them right now by clicking the link in the description or by hitting that join button underneath the video. I hope you learned something today, I know I have, and I'd love to know what you thought of this little side story. Did you know it existed? Did you stumble upon it randomly? I'm really curious if other people have experienced this and how many of you even knew it was a thing. Until next time, take care of yourselves, be kind to others, stay safe, and stay awesome. This is Char 5, signing off.